Hello and welcome to another Victoria 3 video. As promised, I'm going to be going over the various images that we have seen in the monthly update, the 5th monthly update, and we're going to be seeing if there's any new information to be gleaned that is not talked about in the video itself. I do recommend you go and watch the video. It is very good and explains some various concepts and such. And I think it's worth having a look at. It goes over rank and prestige, relations, infamy and interest, diplomatic actions and diplomatic plays, but does not touch on the military. So it's going to be interesting, I think, when we get monthly update 6, when we get to kind of look at a bit of the military side again in that kind of style. That's going to be interesting, but that's obviously next month. But this month we're going to look at other things. We're looking at different things. So let's have a look first at this image here. This is the Arts Academy showing the prestige production, I guess. So the Arts Academy here is has got wages. It's got a production method, which means that it needs to take in paper as one of its inputs, and the output is 20 prestige and 20 urbanization. Prestige, of course, being what governs what kind of global ranking you are. So having lots of art academies, probably a good thing. I do recall in the Dev Diary where this was seen first, Persia had a lot of art academies and had a lot of prestige from that, so probably the numbers do need tweaking and balancing somewhat, and perhaps that is going to be the case here as well. But yeah, arts academies, if you've forgotten, they're a thing. Hoorah. We got here the ranking of Dynam. They are unrecognized. Score of, the position of 87. If you remember the Qing, or is it the Ming, or whatever, whoever China is at this time, I can't actually remember what they're called. I think it's the Qing. They are rank 80, which means that, you know, there are 79 recognized powers in the world, and Qing are the first of the losers, I guess, or the first of the unrecognized powers. We can see, you know, how much prestige is worth, right? Because the prestige of 50 there is what is putting that in its place. If an arts academy is worth 20, you know, Dynam is not very prestigious, right? It's only, you know, 2.5 art academies worth of prestigiousness. Yeah, prestige is a very abstract concept, right? But even so, you can see here, Dynam can't achieve a higher rank than unrecognized power due to their unrecognized country status, limiting them to a maximum score position of 80 in the world. I imagine that is going to go down as different countries are annexed, especially the German miners, as soon as they get annexed and basically murdered by Prussia. That unrecognized status, like, limit is going to go down significantly. Next up, we have this one, and it is the prestige of Great Britain. We can see the different things that are contributing to its prestige, from the country tier of empire, gross domestic product, so how much wealth the country has, the GDP of its subjects as well, like the East India Company, from its size of its army, the size of its navy, and from army power projection of subjects as well. So if the East India Company has a large army, that improves Great Britain's prestige itself as well. Things that are a little bit weird here, I would argue, is that the navy being a smaller amount of prestige than the army is weird, especially for Great Britain. If this was France that we were looking at, it wouldn't strike me as very odd, but as it's Britain, their navy is what gives Britain the prestige in this period, not so much the army. Like, the army isn't bad, right? The army is not terrible. I know that means like British army is terrible in this period. It's not. But the navy is like the pinnacle, amaze sauce, absolute magic bullshit, right? That let Britain win this period. And yeah, having it be lower than the army is a bit weird. It is a little bit weird. They've also found the source of the Nile for 150 prestige, which is quite nice. That's why it's called Lake Victoria, not Lake Bismarck. But also no arts academies here, so, you know, you could totally get in some of that easy free prestige by building an arts academy if you are playing as Great Britain. Next up, we have the rank list for countries that are unrecognized. And yeah, it's Great Qing. It's not Qing, it's not Ming, it's not China, it's Great Qing. And they're in rank 80th place, right? Their prestige is huge, though, right? They have more prestige than Great Britain. So if Great Qing manages to become a recognized power, they will shoot to first place, which is madness. It's absolutely crazy. You can also see the various populations of the various areas, the various countries. So I don't know enough to say if these are correct or incorrect, so whatever. But yeah, it's just a colossal amount of population there for Great Qing. 381 million is a bit mad. Just a wee bit mad. And also the GDP's there as well, so that's it's good information there to know. We have here the rank list again, and we're looking at Cambodia specifically, seeing that they have a country tier of kingdom, which gives them 25 prestige, and their army is incredibly small, so they only get 4 from that. And then they also have a 10% extra from their ruler trait. Although, I don't know, it says, they've got a prestige of 29 here. And that's 25 plus 4 is 29. So where is this extra 10%? Well, like, what is that applying to? And is it applying at all? Or I don't know. But yeah, having the ruler traits is also an interesting facet of the game. Victoria 2, of course, did not have any characters of any kind, really. So yeah, having ruler traits is pretty cool. Next up, more rank lists, and we're looking a little bit at the rank list at the top of the table, though we're missing how much money and population Great Britain has, unfortunately. But we're also looking at Venezuela, who are ranked 35 in the world with only 32 prestige. So Dynam is actually more prestigious than Venezuela, but Dynam is unrecognized and Venezuela is recognized, so you can, that's where the difference is being made. But we can also see that if the prestige of Venezuela is reduced below 20 for an extended time, their rank will decrease to insignificant power. So there are not just 8 great powers and then everyone else not a great power and then uncivilized, I guess is what Victoria 2 called them. Now there is, the great power, the major power, insignificant power, I think local power is another one, minor power, like all of these different types of powers, which I think is a nice expansion to the system. Next up, we have the Sikh Empire, and we can have a look at their rank breakdown. Their kingdom for plus 25, gross domestic product of plus 18, and then their army power projection is plus 57. So they've actually got a fairly interesting system, or a fairly interesting setup here. The Sikh Empire is not it's not a walkover, it's not a pushover. If you recall back to the when we were looking at Great Britain's breakdown, their army power projection was around the same. I think it was actually identical, of 57. So the Sikh Empire has a decent army, and if you know from history or from Victoria 2, Britain and the Sikh Empire end up at war very shortly after the start of the game. So it's not going to be as much of a walkover as maybe it could be. Although I will say that that's Britain's own independent, special to Great Britain army. That does not include the East India Company's army, which is, it's not insignificant itself. So if it was just Great Britain versus the Sikh Empire, there may be some kind of wiggle room there that you could see the Sikh Empire maybe pulling a victory out. But as the East India Company are there as well, probably not. And also see their literacy, standard of living, and all of that good stuff as well, which is kind of cool. It's good to know various different things. I think Sikh Empire is actually going to be a pretty fun doomer run. The challenge, I guess, of bringing the Sikh Empire and conquering all of India could be a really fun challenge. Possibly going to be an achievement for it. I would argue that might be the case. But yeah, interesting stuff. Next up, we have Spanish rank. They are the great power. They're 8th in the world, and they've got 147 prestige. If they go down to 122, they'll decrease to a major power, which they could do by losing a war and losing a massive amount of their military. And their army power projection would go down, and then, oh, now you're only a major power. I believe there is only 8 great powers in the world at the start date. I think 9th is major power, so that might be it. But I do believe, or I do recall, sorry, that it isn't just top 8 are major power, or sorry, great powers, and then the next few are majors. It's based on the percentage of total GDP of the first placed great power, I believe. It's something along those lines. I've got a terrible memory, I apologize. It's something along those lines anyway. It's based on your power respective to other powers, basically. You're unlikely to get a situation where there's only one great power, though, which is good. But I think I recall them saying that if that was ever going to be the case, that one power was just so much higher than the rest of them, they were thinking of adding a rank on top of that again, which could be interesting to see. Maybe like world power or something like that. Who knows? We have Transvaal's breakdown here as well, seeing that some ruler traits are actually not so good. You got negative 10% from their ruler trait of reserved. Now, if we add up theirs, though, they got 20 from the Arts Academy, plus 12 is 32, plus 14 from their GDP is 46, and then plus 5 is 51. So I don't know where this negative 20% from, you know, the social criticism and the reserved is coming into play, because it kind of doesn't look like it is. I'm not sure where that's coming in, because negative 20% on 51 is like 10.1, 10.2, something like that. So they would be going down to like 41 prestige if those were applying. I just don't see where that is coming. I just don't. But hey, it's early game, you know, early development, so maybe that is just not applying as yet, and it will be on release, hopefully. Next up, we have the Zulu. They are a unrecognized minor power, score of 145. They've got 8 prestige. They're probably not going to... I mean, the Zulu never really did anything historically significant, right? They're just going to be a pushover. It shouldn't take more than a single, you know, regiment of redcoats to see them off, right? That's seems pretty logical to me, right? Yeah. All right. I think we're good. I think we're good. Next up, we have Austria, and we're talking about relations between countries. So this is something that I picked up on almost immediately that is a bit weird, right? So if we see here, they've got a cautious attitude towards Russia. Austria views Russia as an unknown factor in geopolitical affairs. However, if we look down just a little bit more, Austria views Russia as a natural ally. And I know where this is coming from, right? The natural ally will just be a tag or a flag in these nation tags, right? And it will probably go away if those two countries ever go to war. It's the same as historical friend and historical rival in EU4. I know that's where that's coming from. And the attitude is entirely dynamic. If you are at, you know, certain threshold for relations, then it will be unknown factor and relevant to their interest. They're not yet decided whether they see them as a friend or enemy, right? I know that's the case. That's what's happening here. But it's just a bit weird if we have not yet decided whether we see you as a friend, but we also see you as a natural ally. I don't know. Like, those two aren't entirely contradictory. It's just a wee bit weird, you know? But yeah, we can see that they've got a strategic desire of befriending Russia as well, which is interesting to see. Like, it's unclear what country the game is being played as right now, but it would be very weird if I was playing, say, the United States, and I could click on Austria and see their relationship with Russia and see that, you know, that they have a strategic desire to befriend Russia. That'd be a bit weird. Why would I know that? I don't know. Let me know what you think on that one. Because this is like, it's the first image that I'm being like a little bit skeptical of, you know? So I would like to see people's thoughts on that one as well. We have Baden's relations here as well, specifically with Bavaria. They view Bavaria as an unknown factor, and also as a natural ally, but also we have cold relations with them, and a strategic desire to befriend Bavaria. It just seems a little bit weird, don't you think? Like, the flavor text is like ping-ponging between various different factors, and it's just a bit awkward. I don't know if rewording it is really going to help. I think maybe just removing the not yet decided whether to see them as friend or enemy. Reword that to something more neutral. And just remove the friend and enemy from there. I don't know. Maybe that could work. But it just, like I say, it just feels a little bit awkward to me right now. Next up, we have Bolivia, and we're talking about infamy. So, infamy is the way that your country is seen by other countries. The more infamy you have, if you hit 100, then you will have problems, as everyone would get a casus belli on you to, you know, bring you back down to size. It's obviously not something you want. But yeah, we'll see here that the Bolivians have 37.4 infamy, and you can see their decay as well. And I believe you can also spend some. I think you can spend some authority, bureaucracy, or influence. One of the capacities. I can't recall which one. I believe you can spend one of those to have it go down faster, or maybe the amount that you have unspent is affecting the decay rate. I'm pretty sure that's actually it. But yeah, that's as far as I can recall on how that works. I think we've seen this image before anyway. I think it's the same one from the Dev Diary. So, with maybe go and have a look at the Dev Diary that I did on infamy and such, to hear my accurate thoughts on this specific thing. Yeah, moving on. Bolivia again. Their relations between Brazil and Bolivia are hostile. -100. We could right-click to see, you know, more information on that, which would be nice. See why the relations are so hostile. Maybe they're at war. Who knows? Yeah, maybe you could find out more there. We've got here declare interest, one of the various diplomatic actions that you can do as a country. Declaring interest, as we know, is the way that you say that you are interested in a certain strategic region. And if a diplomatic play goes off in said region, you will get notified, and you will be basically invited to join one side or the other, or stay neutral. It's an interesting way to work on this. I think I would love to know what country is being played when we have this, because we know that the amount of interests you can have is dependent on your country rank. So whoever this country is has 5 interests that they can spend. I believe that is on top of any area that they have land in. So if say we're talking about Great Britain, they won't have to declare an interest in any of the vast amounts of territory that they have. They won't have to declare an interest in the British Isles. They won't have to declare an interest in, I guess, North Germany, because they have Heligoland. They won't have to declare an interest in Southern Italy because they got Malta, that kind of thing, you know? So they have, well, whoever this country is has 5 extra interests on top of the ones for their home regions. Next up, we've got here on, well, we can declare an interest on Persia, and we can see some of the regions here that you can declare interests on. So Persia is pretty huge. It's pretty huge. And you know, maybe if you want to keep the oil localized and not being you know, taken by the Brits, the French, the Germans, or whatever, you could declare an interest there. You could also, maybe as the Ottomans, you would declare an interest in this region, because if, say, Russia is snaking its way down south. They've taken over Khiva, perhaps. Maybe you want to get involved if Russia decides that they want a bite of Persia. Could entirely be the case there. We have another one here declaring interests in South America. Brazil, you can see there's a absolutely colossally sized strategic region. We've got Bolivia, Peru there as well. A bunch of places, and they're, all super huge. There are as well, you can see on the diplomatic lens, a 45 next to declare interest. That merely means that there are 45 places that it would be possible for whoever we're playing as to declare an interest. I would imagine that whoever we're playing as here either already has Grao, Para, New Granada, Venezuela, etc. As strategic interests, or they are one of the countries that are in that area, so they don't have to set that area as a strategic interest. It could be that we're still looking at Bolivia. It's just impossible to tell from this, I believe, unless I'm missing something, which is also entirely possible. There are other ways, of course, that you can use diplomacy, and that is what we have here with improved relations. Relations are not singular directional, right? Japan's in relations with Great Britain. If they're 100, then Britain's relations with Japan are also 100. Like it goes both ways. You can't have individual relations with one another, which is I kind of prefer that system. It's definitely different to what we've seen in EU4 and in not Victoria 3, and in Imperative Rome, for example. I prefer it this way. So I like it. And end of story, really. You can get over it. But yeah, we've got the Japanese and Great Qing could be improving their relations. It goes up 5% daily, so we're looking at about 20 days to get the relations up by 1. Is that a lot? Because 20 days, if you times that by 4, because we have 4 ticks per day, we've got 80. So 80 ticks. If you convert that to like EU4, for example, where you're quite frequently getting 3 to 5 relations improvement per month, we're looking at like +1 in 2.5, almost 3 months. 2.5, 3 months, and you get 1. It's a bit weird, right? It's relations go up a lot slower in Victoria than they do in any other Paradox game. By tick rate, I should say. Even then, 20 days to go up by 1 is still lower, even if it was 1 tick per day, than EU4 as well. It's very interesting. As well, efforts can only increase relations by up to 50. So you can't go all the way. You can't bring someone who is very annoyed with you, all the way from hatred to absolute boyfriend-girlfriend situation, right? That's not going to work. You can only increase by up to 50. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. We have here relations between Russia and Prussia are amicable. There are efforts to improve relations. Again, they go up by 5% a day. It's interesting that it's the same amount per day. Are Prussia, Russia, and Qing and Japan all very similar levels diplomatically? I don't know. Maybe that could have some variance in there. But yeah, Russia's trying to improve relations with Russia. Sorry. Russia is trying to improve relations with Prussia. Why do they choose 2 nations that are separated by a single letter? It's very, very awkward, very annoying. But either way, this could be for many reasons, like they want to get their relations high enough such that they can ally, or so they can trade, or any number of reasons. So that Russia won't join in against Prussia when Prussia goes to war with Austria, something along those lines. So yeah, relations, it's good. We have more infamy here. The Infamy of America, certainly lower than it is today, for sure. It's only reputable right now. You can see how much it goes down. They've got diplomatic mitigation, increasing the base decay by 25%. And again, I don't think that percentage is applying. If it's going down by 5 a year, what's 5 divided by 52? If it's 0.12, then yeah, that diplomatic mitigation isn't actually applying. If it is, then great, but I don't believe it is. Either way, yeah. USA, infamy, yes, indeed. Next up, we have more interests and such, and you can also, you know, remove your interest in certain areas. It's actually interesting. I don't see Heligoland on this screenshot. I would assume it's added. Maybe it's just a bit smaller than we've seen in previous titles, to the point where I can't see it. I don't know. But yeah, you can remove your interest as well, so you can, you know, place it elsewhere if you so desire. Again, though, we have no idea what country we're currently playing as in this screenshot, so it's really hard to make any kind of guesses. I would say I feel like the color of the interest is a little too blocky. I wouldn't mind that being a little bit more transparent so we can see, you know, North Germany beneath it. That would be kind of nice. But yeah, it's interesting. Next up, we have Russian infamy. They are notorious. How much that is, I don't know. We could just see that they're notorious in this screenshot. Cool. Next up, more relations stuff. You can see the relations map mode for Sardinia, Piedmont. They are, you know, big buddy friends with France. They love the Papal States, 2 Sicilies, and Switzerland, and also Tuscany. But not big fans of the Austrians, which makes sense because, you know, the historical reality was that France helped Sardinia, Piedmont in their conquest of, you know, the Italian lands held by Austria. And that's what you can do in Victoria 2 as well. So yeah, it's certainly interesting to see the different relations. I think also we've got good relations with Britain as well, but maybe no relations or neutral relations with Belgium and Netherlands, etc. I don't know why it's like no shading at all for neutral, but then we've got like this block green that's covering up quite a lot of the terrain. I don't know. It's like a lot of these could do with being just a little bit more transparent, especially the green ones. Next up, again, some more relations things. Relations between the Sikh Empire and Afghanistan. They're neutral. There's relation improvement from Afghanistan. It's images that we've basically seen before, but just elsewhere. The blue looks pretty decent. You can the amount of transparency on the blue is okay. It's just weird that the rest of the world now is just this block gray. I don't know. Kind of think that the game shouldn't do that because it makes it very awkward to visualize what's going on. I would much prefer if all of those countries still looked like they were colored in instead of just yeah, no, we're experiencing very localized cloud cover everywhere but Afghanistan. Bit awkward. We have an alliance offer here as well, seeing the various things that you need. So base value is -50, acceptance score is +47. So you can see how much relations are also improved via allying. +30 is a lot lower than we've seen in other games for alliances, although, you know, we've seen like +50s, I guess, so it's not that much different. But the various things that go into it as well, such as rank, the amount of infamy you have, the relations that you have with each other, the attitude you have, which is something I don't think we've learned too much about, is the attitude of a nation. I think that is just an AI set thing, maybe. Ideological differences and similarities also comes into it, which is very interesting. And then also the comparative army strength as well, all coming together to make an alliance quite desirable from the Ottomans and the Persians. Next up, we have Bankroll. It's another one of the diplomatic actions that you can take if you want to help your neighbor not suffer from crippling debt. So here we have Mexico bankrolling the Yucatan, and I would assume relations would go up from that. Maybe Mexico's looking for a diplomatic way to get their hands on a bit more Yucatan clay, perhaps. Who knows? Some more ones here. We had improve relations. You can also damage your relations. So the reason you would want to do this as well is because if your relations are too high, then you cannot start a diplomatic play against your neighbor. So if the relations between Austria and Prussia are high, and Austria wants to declare war on Prussia, then Austria is going to want to damage the relations to the point where they get it to the point where they can start the diplomatic play. I believe it is anything below 10 you can do it, but I forget the exact number. We can also see some of the various different actions you can take there. We've got violate sovereignty, take on debt, expel diplomats, and then we've seen already the improve and damaging relations. Expel diplomats is interesting because if you have that same example that I was just talking about, and Prussia is improving relations because they don't want Austria to declare war on them, Austria could just expel the diplomats from Prussia, or expel the Prussian diplomats from Austria, and then, Prussia would not be able to improve relations with them. All right, moving on. We have the diplomatic action list, the entire damn thing, and this is for the United Tribes, and I believe that is New Zealand. I'm fairly certain that is the case. They are improving relations with two nations. I don't recognize the flag. There's the British ensign, and is that like the Welsh dragon in a white circle? I don't recognize the flag, I'm afraid. But yeah, we've got improve relations, damage relations, expel diplomats, take on debt, violate sovereignty, inviting to customs union and joining customs union, and then start bankrolling as well, which is a fairly decent list of diplomatic actions. There's nothing that stands out to me as like, oh, I really need this, but I'm sure when I start playing it, there might be something that I would want, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. As we saw before, as I was talking about before, we have the expel diplomats here as well. You do gain some infamy when you expel diplomats, but it could be worth it. Who knows? So the Dutch East Indies here, they are lowering their opinion of Lanfang, and of course, as I said before, opinion, or relations, I should say, go both ways. So it goes down by 30, and you will probably be able to get that diplomatic play started then once you've done this. But it does cost you the infamy, which may suck for you. Who knows? Norway here, and we can see the personal union that they have as they are underneath Sweden. Personal unions are a thing that exist at the start of the game, but I do not believe they will be possible to create after the start of the game. So we're of course looking from Sweden's perspective, looking at Norway, and they could grant independence to Norway if they so desired. Their relations would improve by 30 through this independence, and I think, yeah, they would stay as a part of the customs union, which is nice. But yeah, lovely stuff. Moving on. More grant independence. This time we're looking at Siam and Luang Prabang. Luang Prabang is part of the customs union led by Siam, and they would maintain a tributary status. So I believe right now it is a case of a scaling system, right? Next up, we have the USA, and they are improving relations between themselves and Mexico. Actually, Mexico is improving relations. Yeah, we're looking from the Mexican perspective, of course. Maybe they don't want the USA to declare war upon them, so they're trying their hardest to get the relations up so that doesn't happen. All the USA needs to do is expel those diplomats, and that won't even matter. They'll just, they have to deal with it. They have to deal with it. Next up, we have this here, the Protectorate. Making someone a Protectorate will make them as part of your customs union. You will become a Protectorate subject, and one party would be over the other one. What exactly protectorates have to do, I don't think has been shared, but I would imagine it's a portion of their income, and in return, Austria would protect them if they're attacked, that kind of thing. It's just a basic vassal, right? Making someone a vassal. We also have the trade agreement here. Not everything that you want to run your country will be produced in your own areas or in your customs union, so you can make a trade agreement with another country. We've got this one here between Japan and the Netherlands, and Japanese relations towards the Netherlands improves by 10, and subsequently Netherlands' opinion towards Japan also goes up by 10, so yes. I would say Japanese relations with the Netherlands improved by 10 would be better wording there, purely because it is both ways. It's not monodirectional, which is quite nice. These trade agreements do cost maintenance, of course, in the diplomatic capacity, which I always forget the name of. My apologies. Is 75 a lot? I don't know. It depends on the context, I guess. Next up, we have the ability to declare war upon another nation in order for them to, stop having slaves. So right now we have the Russian Empire looking at Persia and thinking about declaring war upon them or they started diplomatic play on them to get them to abolish slavery. That can lead to war if Persia does not back down, of course. In this, you can see that Persia has 45 battalions, but they may be supported by the Ottoman Empire, who has 150, and Kalat, who has 10. There's no strong preference for either side for Afghanistan and the Sikh Empire, and we don't have any clue how many men the Russians have. So it depends. If the Persians can get the Ottomans on side, maybe it would be a little bit more difficult, but maybe just abolish the slavery. It's not that difficult, just do it, mate. All right. Next up, we have another one here, a diplomatic play in Brazil. So what the I don't even know the names of these nations. It's Argentina versus Uruguay. So Argentina is wanting to puppet Uruguay. They want a treaty port, they want to ban slavery, and they want war reparations. And in return, Uruguay wants war reparations to conquer Corrientes for their supporter I don't know who that is, and then also opening the Argentine market so that they can trade. There are a lot more things that Uruguay can do. Of course, you can see that they have 35. There's a word for it. I've forgotten it though. 35 different things that they can do, whereas the Argentines only have 7, and I assume a lot of these cost more than 1 each. I can't remember what it's called, but it's during the diplomatic maneuvering phase, and they're able to add new war goals and demands and such. If one or the other side backs down, then only the primary war goal, the one right at the top, will be enacted upon. So if Uruguay backs down, they will be puppeted. If Argentina backs down, say they end up getting more support from someone else, then all they would have to do is pay some war reparations. So yeah, good stuff. Unfortunately, it did not work out. No one backed down, and now we're in the countdown to war. So all you can do, there is no way that you can add any more war goals at this point. Bolivia has jumped in and said they want some war reparations as well, because Bolivia seemingly joined the Argentines. And then, they also want to open the Bolivian market. So there's more demands being added. And at this point, the only possible thing to do is back down. That's the only thing you can do. And if you don't, then it's war. We've got another one here, the diplomatic play in Gran Colombia. So Britain wants a treaty port. And Bolivia wants to take British Guyana. So if Britain backs down, which I don't think is too terribly likely, then they will lose a colony in Guyana. But if the Bolivians back down, then they will just lose a little bit of territory in the treaty port. However, if it goes to war, then there are more things. So the Bolivians also want the Indian Ocean territory, whereas the British want to puppet Venezuela, ban slavery in Venezuela, get reparations from Venezuela, and open the Venezuelan market. Yeah, there's a lot there going on. Interesting stuff. Next up, we have here France was swayed to our side in the diplomatic play against Great Britain. So it could be in this same thing going on with Bolivia and Great Britain. And Bolivia has managed to sway France to their side, which seems incredible to me. Like, Britain and France, we've been friends forever. There's never been a single drop of bad blood between Britain and France. We've always been the best of mates. So it just seems so unrealistic that France would back colonial power against Britain. Right? Either way, they've been swayed to their side. So, you can get people or different countries to back your play. So even if all the odds seem against you, there's a potential there. There's still potential that you can get some help. And who knows what Bolivia has offered France in this particular play. Take London, perhaps. Probably not, but, there could be something interesting there that France thinks, you know what? Yeah, I'll jump in on this. Next up, we have the diplomatic play in England. So the initiator is Sokoto, and they have demanded that Britain recognize them, which is an interesting one. We did not see the recognition demand in the Dev Diary itself. So we've got the war goal to recognize Sokoto. Britain has not added anything yet, but we can see that they've got 447 brigades or battalions, and that's a hefty amount. The 10 naval anchors, I don't know about that one, but yeah, no, it's very interesting. I can't see Sokoto really winning this one. I don't know about you. I just don't find it too terribly likely, especially as it doesn't look like there is anyone that is, leaning to their side or on the fence or supporting them. So good luck, Sokoto, in becoming England's protectorate there. And next up, we have more swaying, the ability to sway another country we've just talked about, and this is the options that you've got. So you can offer them a favor, you can offer them war reparations, offer them an open market, offer them to conquer a state, or offer them to make somebody a puppet. And I believe this is Prussia that is doing the swaying on Bavaria, so who knows what it is that they... what war this is all about, but you can imagine, why is the war reparations blocked out there? Who knows? I don't know. But even so, it looks like Bavaria will accept that offer of a favor, which I don't know exactly what they can redeem that favor for. If I don't think that has been stated as of yet. There's another one here. So we have the swaying of the Netherlands here. So I'm not sure who it is that is trying to sway the Netherlands, but they can offer them British Ghana. It could actually be Britain here, offering them some of their own territory to the Netherlands so that the Netherlands will join them. I think that actually might be the case here. So they want British Ghana, but they don't really give two shits about British Gambia. So if you offer them, British Ghana, then they'll join you. But that's might not be all she wrote, because if whoever Britain's opponent is decides to give the Netherlands a better offer, they can switch sides. That's not a problem at all. And that's all I actually have for you today on the 5th monthly update and all of the various images that came along with it. So again, we had rank and prestige, we had relations, infamy, and interests, we had diplomatic actions, and then finally we had some information on diplomatic plays. I hope you find those screenshots interesting. There are some new things to glean there, like the diplomatic play to recognize me as a country, is an interesting one to add in there. You can imagine something like the Russo-Japanese War. Recognize me could be, one of the Japanese war goals. And yeah, I think it's definitely worth taking a closer look at these images. So I hope you enjoyed them. If you did, like button would be helpful. Subscribe so you don't miss any more of the future Victoria 3 content, including on Thursday the next developer diary. This time it's going to be about the cost of war, which should be an interesting one. So yeah, subscribe and leave comments and just all that YouTube jazz. Yeah, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.